Welcome to Merkaba Chakras, where we talk Buddhism in the fifth dimension.
Welcome to another podcast episode of Merkaba Chakras. I'm your host, Von Galt, and today we talk about the wonderful benefits of holistic medicine with Dr. Norm Shealy and Dr. Sergey Sorin. In Buddhism, much of the knowledge of holistic healing techniques and remedies are documented in the picture diagrams of the ancient thangkas. And today, we add even more knowledge to this age-old wellness lifestyle with Dr. Norm Shealy and Dr. Sergey Sorin. So with that, welcome to Merkaba Chakras.
It's wonderful to be with you. Thank you.
Oh, yes. I love the material that you guys offer because it's very preventive. And just for the audience, Dr. Norman Shealy is the father of holistic medicine. He is the inventor of TENS, TENS, and the president of Shealy-Sorin Wellness and Holos Energy Medicine Education. And Dr. Serjey is a top doctor of the year in holistic medicine in 2020. He is an author, lecturer, CEO, and medical director of the Shealy-Sorin Wellness Institute. So a lot of accolades there. But gentlemen, before we get into what it is that you offer your patients or clients, let's talk about how you even got into this, because not all medical doctors go into holistic medicine. They stay in the standard clinical medicine.
That's an understatement.
It really is. And so, let's go over how did you get into this in the first place. So Dr. Shealy, how did you get into it?
Well, interestingly, when I was in my neurosurgical residency, I was appalled at how we were treating people with chronic pain. We'd go to the operating room, open the spine, take off the bone from 2 levels over the spinal cord, and then take a piece of a razor blade, break it off, put it in a little thermostat, a little pair of pliers, sort of, and cut the front half of the spinal cord. Barbarian, in my opinion. I was so appalled that when I finished my residency, I spent 3 years doing research on pain physiology. And I learned that we could actually electrically control pain by stimulating the skin or the spinal cord itself, like a pacemaker over the spinal cord.
Mm-hmm.
Interestingly, when I presented the research of 3 years of that to the neurosurgeons, they jumped up on the stage and called me an idiot. They said, "You don't know what you're talking about. It's all in animals." But 3 years later, when I'd done only 6 patients, every neurosurgeon in the room wanted to do the procedure.
Yeah, it's interesting that you say that, because as a patient and a consumer of medicine practice for different things, that there seems to be two modes of thought when it comes to, because as a patient, you always get the second, third opinion on different. You don't always, a good patient doesn't always stick with just one and that's it, and then go right into surgery. So, but why is alternative ways to deal with pain and illness so pushed against?
I think, unfortunately, when I discovered and got into holistic medicine, because I was being sent 400 people a year for the pacemaker over the spinal cord, I turned down 94% of them because they were too damaged already. The average such patient had 5 unsuccessful back operations, and they were on Valium and Percodan. And so in 1971, I said, somebody's got to find out what to do with these people who've already failed medicine. And over the next 3 years, I discovered that we could retrain the brain and still use these electrical things. And of course, acupuncture. I also introduced electricity to acupuncture needles. Instead of twirling them with my fingers, hooked them up to an electrical device. And so by 1968, I founded the American Holistic Medical Association because I felt we've got to find ways to treat all these people who fail conventional medicine. Interestingly, I was often asked to speak at medical school to the students. And interestingly, in the first year students, 30% were very interested. 10% of the fourth year students, they had been brainwashed enough away from anything except conventional medicine. And unfortunately, today, 99% of all medical research done at universities is funded by the pharmacomafia. And I call it that because I really consider the pharmaceutical industry an evil empire.
And why do you say that? Because no, it has been proven that majority of, if you look at the funding for medical universities, research, and even medical journals, a majority of them are funded by the pharmaceutical companies, and heavy sponsors. And you can look this up; it's all public. Is funded by the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, along with some other prominent names as well that we all know. And they heavily fund them. And because of that, it does influence the direction of the research. It's a little slant to it. So how does that factor into our healthcare and what kind of material doctors research?
Unfortunately, it means that most patients get only fairly good acute medical care. My personal opinion is if it doesn't cure you within 6 months max, it isn't going to. The chances then, in fact, after 3 months, your chances of getting a complication are greater than your chance of being helped further. My favorite statement is I don't know a single disease in the world for which I would allow conventional medicine in a chronic situation. Not one. In acute situations, yes, but never after 6 months potentially. Every drug has complications that can kill you, in fact. For instance, let's take one of the most common problems. I started off with just pain, but of course, pain is always associated with depression and anxiety, so you get the full smear that way. But very soon I found that all my patients my average patient had 5 different problems, not just pain or anxiety, but they had medical problems like hypertension. I can get 99.9% of people off all antihypertensive drugs safely and effectively. No drugs. The same is true for anxiety and depression. And with chronic pain, we can only do maybe 90% of the time excellent. But that's not bad. I mean, opioids, for instance, are a serious problem. I don't mind opioids in acute illness, but if your pain's not going away within 3 to 6 months, they're only going to increase your risk of suicide and keep you depressed for the rest of your life. So it isn't that I won't try medicine in acute illness, but in chronic illness, never.
I'll jump in with a little bit of my story and how I jumped into this situation. It wasn't so much of a voluntary choice. It was something that happened upon me, and I just took the opportunity. I recognized that there was a gift. Just like with any challenge, there's a gift. So I've been a conventionally trained allopathic physician, family medicine, emergency room. I've been at it for now 20 years altogether. Back in 2007, when I still I was out of residency, I was doing great. I was married. I had a beautiful American dream, or whatever you call it. I mean, we came from nothing. So, I mean, that was great, I'm a doctor. I got all these things, I'm practicing medicine. And I got the diagnosis of a colon cancer, stage 3+. And I was told I would be dead within 2 years, right there, right then. So, how does that make sense? I mean, I crawl out from the, so to speak, I make a life for myself. I'm doing something good finally, and I'm going to be dead. How does that make sense?
Yeah.
So that really restarted what's been already. I mean, even when I was in medical school, I mean, I did my grand round presentation on mind-body medicine. I was laughed at, literally. I was literally laughed at, but I said, I'm doing it. I don't care. So there was inklings, but that's when I realized if I'm going to be dead, if I'm going to live 2 years, 2 months, another 8 decades, I mean, it doesn't matter. I mean, I'm going to live to it. So I did a little chemo. I learned about, if something is gonna, when the treatment is worse than the disease, think about it. The definition of insanity, Einstein, doing the same thing over and over, expecting different results. And so I started learning, and I started doing different things. I literally built myself from the bottom up. Lifestyle. I got divorced. I mean, that's not a good thing generally, but it was a toxic marriage, and I was guilty as well. If I could go back, I'd be a little different. Very different. But it's literally, and I started learning about supplements. I started learning about different things. I didn't know everything I know now, but I mean, it's even then I was able to beat it, to beat that condition, and I called it a gift. So it's been fantastic. And then and now that I found a purpose in life, I started a couple of companies. I started moving away from conventional. I started an organization called Samvit Wellness, as you mentioned. It's no longer by itself an organization. It got evolved and moved into the Shealy-Sorin Wellness when I became a partner 6 years ago. And it was interesting how that happened. I was doing a presentation, a talk with my medical partner, a colleague, Dr. Brian Daly, who was a fellow emergency room doc who was absolutely nuts. I was told, this guy is nuts. That's how I knew I was going to talk to him. That was great. And so he knew Dr. Shealy, and he introduced us. And was it the first day that I met you that you made me an offer to join you, or was it a second?
Well, I walked in the room, and I knew him from a life together 800 years ago with St. Francis of Assisi.
Oh, really? So you had an instant recall of a past life that you guys worked together as?
I instantly knew he was one of our companions.
Okay. And in that lifetime, what were you guys, what was the?
Well, he was giving a lecture on sound medicine as part of a workshop with Dr. Daly.
But in the past life that you had an instant recall of, what was the lifestyle?
Well, interestingly, 30 years ago, I just had a sudden image of myself walking with St. Francis of Assisi. I mean, it was just as real as seeing you today.
Right.
And in 2005, I gave a lecture in Canada at the Integrative or Holistic Medicine Conference up there. And the reincarnated St. Francis came down to meet me after I wasn't talking about reincarnation of the past life at all. I was talking about my work.
Yeah.
The reincarnated Francis recognized me as one of his close companions.
He's a doctor in this life.
Interestingly, he is a neurosurgeon in Vancouver. And he and I may be the only two neurosurgeons in the world who know what meditation is. So we became friends, obviously. And over the next several years, again, just as when I met Sergey, I met a person and knew instantly they were one of the companions. And the reincarnated St. Francis agreed. In fact, the other two, there were 4 close companions to Francis. And in June of 2015, the 3 of us went to Assisi and spent a week, and it was just like being in heaven again.
Did you guys instantly walk to your old stomping grounds, sit in that happens.
But especially in the Franciscan temple, if you will. But a few days after I got home, I was invited to come up to hear Sergey and Brian talk. And when I walked in, I knew him. So I walked up and hugged him. It's a person I'd never met before. I'm told his wife said, I think I just lost my husband.
Well, that's what
I'm happy to say that she and I are good friends too.
It all worked out. I mean, but it's fantastic. And
now wait, really quick before we get into that, because this is fascinating, because I have heard this from different doctors and nurses that I have interviewed, that they have a metaphysical experience whereby in another lifetime they were practicing some form of healing medicine, wellness, and then in this one they go into the same field, but this is under the MD RN kind of title, but it's still wellness. So what in that lifetime as a Franciscan monk, what were you, Sorin? I mean, what was he? Another monk?
Yeah, another monk. Yeah. So basically, we Dr. Shealy and I, and Norm and I, we tend to follow a very similar pattern to as far as what we're aware of. I'm sure there's things that we're not aware of, but ever since, there's a number of things we can talk about, since we're talking about reincarnation. There's another experience that became crystallized really clear between
What was the experience?
back in Egypt.
Okay. Egypt too, huh? Egypt.
500 years ago.
And the same thing, healing profession, just
You guys are both priests?
science and spirituality. That's the bridge in the East and West, so to speak. That's the theme.
And
so in the Egyptian lifetime, doctors, were you priests teaching medicine and practicing wellness?
To some extent, we were librarians.
Well, it's always librarians. Yes, librarians. That's the one. Because somebody's got to check all the books and all the medical information.
We created the first big stone library back in Egypt 3,500 years ago. But in the Middle Ages, we were in France, I think it is. And there, interestingly, we were also librarians again.
Yeah, yeah.
And I was Jewish and Sergey was Christian. And at that time, the Christians were being persecuted. And so I helped him because we were friends. Interestingly, in this life, he was born Jewish and I'm Christian. And we're still friends.
Yeah, people flip-flop just to test themselves in terms of like, are you still, if you change the title, if you change the form, are you still going to recognize the energy?
Yes.
So
the energy is the common theme. It's the string that kind of connects everything, the patterns. This is the thing about life, and this is the thing about holistic approach. So if I were to talk about my understanding of holistic, by the way, when I joined this guy here, I by that time I've done every reading. I was like a sponge. I was soaking up everything holistic.
Well, you had 3 years to live, so
exactly. So I had no time to waste, really.
Yeah,
and then,
right.
when I had a little more time than a couple of years, like I just kept going because I loved it so much. That's, and by the way, fully in remission, and God bless the oncologist who gave me a death sentence. Because as much as I told him to get out of the room because he was gonna be dead before I was.
Right.
At the time, I just didn't accept the diagnosis of death right there. But with all due respect, that was the greatest gift ever. It was awakening, really.
You gave me a due date, so now you had to push against the due date.
And most people don't realize, if you know that you've got an expiration date in the physical form, and we all do. Everything with a beginning has an end.
Right.
You got to start asking yourself. Well, you don't have to, but you can. What am I doing? Who am I? What is my purpose? Am I being my best self? And that's what holistic medicine is about, in a nutshell.
And actually, as a child raised by wonderful, nurturing parents, obviously I didn't have the courage to choose abusive parents.
That takes a lot to choose abusive parents. To overcome. There's a lot of courage to do that one.
Well, I didn't have. I was over nurtured, but I'm not at all unhappy about that because I was really pampered as well as the feet. But I always wanted a brother, and I never had one. And actually, to me, Sergey is a soul brother at all levels. That's what it feels like.
Well, you guys have shared different lives together. You guys have been monks during Sir Francis. And you guys have been librarians and priests in Egypt, and also librarians in Asia. Am I correct? So you guys have shared different lives together, all in the same career path, huh?
It seems we still have work to do. We're not done yet. The world still needs this,
Well, interestingly, have you ever heard of Edgar Casey, the sleeping prophet?
Yes.
Well, Casey said you never walk down the street and pass someone you haven't known in a past life.
That's true.
It's an opportunity to renew old friendships or clean up old enemies.
Yeah.
And of course, I've had both happen in this life.
Have you met somebody that you just wanted to like?
Well, when I met my wife, she was dating my roommate.
Oh.
And I knew he would never marry her because his parents were Orthodox Jewish. And so I said, David, I'd like you to stop dating Shealy because you would never marry her and I might. And after a month, he said, okay, I'll stop dating you, but you can't do it for a month. Nobody thinks to tell Shealy what's happening. And I started phoning her every night. For 1 month, I phoned her every night. And then on my birthday in 1958, we had our first date. And in January, we were engaged.
Yeah, that's wonderful. So, gentlemen, so your paths, so Serjey, your path into holistic medicine came from getting the diagnosis of colon cancer.
It was a
And
kick in
you,
the butt. Yeah.
right. And then Norm, yours was going into medicine and just looking at kind of how archaic it was, and like there's better ways to deal with health and healing and pain. And the you still do the I forgot what the pacemaker
Oh, the spinal cord stimulator, that requires surgery.
that requires surgery.
Actually, I have given up doing surgery. You know, I am 88,
Mm,
but I still actually I've found several other gadgets that are even better than the spinal cord stimulator.
mm,
But the most important is what we call the gamma PEMF PEMF device. It is, in my opinion, our greatest contribution. It is the greatest thing for treating depression and anxiety as well as local pain. I mean, this week, for instance, I suddenly saw a 2-year-old who's having seizures 1 to 3 times a week, uncontrolled by medication. I had his mother hold the PEMF on his head.
Let me see if I can bring a demo.
Yeah, and within 20 minutes, he was asleep.
mm-hmm.
And so I've sent him home. I think it will be controlled well by using this. But the greatest use is for anxiety.
Mm-hmm.
Our first major, when I discovered it, I didn't know it was as good as it is, but I thought it does seem to calm. So we found out that when you put this on your head.
Mm-hmm. And you guys made this? You guys made this?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Designed and evolved, as a matter of fact.
Okay.
Yeah.
But it puts the brain into the frequency called gamma.
Yes.
Gamma was first discovered, you may know, by in Buddhist priests who meditate 8 hours a day.
Right.
Well, this little gadget can put you there in 30 minutes.
Nice. I gotta buy one of those.
Yeah.
You can do it for fun?
Well, then the next thing we did was take 10 long-term narcotic, they like to call it opioids now. I still prefer narcotic personally.
Yeah.
Opioids, 20 plus years, never able to be off them.
Mm.
They volunteered to participate in this, and within a month, their cravings began to disappear. And those people are now 3.5 years free of opioid cravings.
Wonderful.
Do
you sell this equipment? Because I love these healing gadgets.
It is called the Shealy-Sorin Gamma PEMF.
So can somebody like myself who just likes to get into the gamma and higher frequencies just to connect to source, buy it and just do it as a daily routine just for fun?
On our website. It's available on our website.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I want to get more into that in a little bit as well. So let's back up a little bit and explain to people what is holistic medicine, because they know what regular medicine, they can go and see their doctor at the clinic or the hospital. But what is holistic medicine for Western minds?
It is putting body, mind, and soul together. In other words, to me, a soul incarnates for an experience, and we have a basic physical need to survive. You've got to have air, water, food, shelter, nurturing, that kind of thing. And we have the things to do. Mm. But at the soul level, we are in touch with God and the divine. And what got left out of medicine 300 years ago was the soul. Mm-hmm. And to me, it was left out of psychology as well. But unfortunately,
why did they leave out that element of spirit, the energy of spirit, out of medicine?
There's no why when you make decisions like that. I think it was stupidity. But interestingly, I've never had any doubt that I have a spirit and a soul.
Yeah, everybody knows that.
And So in 1972, I discovered a technique called autogenic training. It had been around since 1912, and there were 2,600 scientific references on it when I learned it. But I suddenly started doing it with my chronic pain patients, and all of a sudden, that took over. It was so important in how I helped to heal the patients that in 1974, I went back to get a PhD in psychology.
Mm-hmm.
At, I want to say, not a conventional psychology program.
Okay, what's the program?
Well, Saybrook University. It's humanistic psychology.
Mm-hmm.
Humanistic psychology actually isn't really related to being a human. It's related to having a spirit. It is the sacred, if you will, part of psychology.
Mm-hmm.
So I learned that I could take autogenic training and change it into all kinds of other things. So now we have 68 different mental exercises for retraining the brain.
Well, mind, body, spirit, dealing with thoughts, feelings, emotions. Some of the most important exercises, for example, tolerance, forgiveness, acceptance. Another one is, who am I? I have a physical body, and I'm more than my physical body. Not to say that it's my mind versus body, mind and body. I have mind, thoughts, feelings, and emotions, and I am more than my thoughts, my feelings, and emotions. I am a spiritual being with a wonderful physical experience. You can add your own phrases there, whatever their understanding is of who you are. But the bottom line is, I am, and that's enough. I am okay, I am enough. And most people, most humans are born okay. It's just something that happens along the way, mentally, physically, emotionally, lifestyle. That's a huge thing. We go into lifestyle very heavily: nutrition, exercise, movement, sleep, rest, stress management. A huge part of our practice is dealing with chronic unopposed stress. And we'll talk about stress and Serjey research in 30s and 40s. Tremendous work. But just to kind of summarize, another big part of the whole holism is making sure that not just the food, because it's deficient in nutrients, and it's a toxic world these days.
Right.
The idea and the concept, you need certain basic supplementations, and if you have certain problems, you need other things more. And then there's electromagnetic devices, but not to forget that everything is a pattern. Physical is a pattern, mental and emotional is a pattern. People who feel that they're locked in, people who feel that they're in a bad place, a lot of times they feel stuck. So our job is not to fix anybody. Our job is to unstuck them, so to speak.
Right.
Show them
Let me ask you.
way, and
Right. Let me ask you something about food. What are your thoughts about processed food? I mean, because I do this exercise, and I want to get your opinion on it. I do this exercise when I have processed, because we eat processed food too. I would get like my son's baby food, his processed cereals and stuff. I would smash it up, and I would take a magnet and hang it over the smashed particles to see if there's any debris, any metals or debris in it that is not supposed to be in there, and then I would just throw it away if I find something. But I don't find it consistently in all of it. So I mean, what are your thoughts on processed food?
In general, if it has anything that's not a real food in it, a substitute, an artificial, is junk. In other words, in a grocery stores, I will not personally shop except in the outside aisles. The vegetables, the fruits, the dairy, the meats, etc. If it's in a plastic bag or a paper container or even a box or a plastic jar or even a can, I don't eat it. I think it's no longer good food. And I consider all fast food restaurants junk. They add monosodium glutamate to make you.
They add MSG into it?
Yep. It's addicting, but it's damaging to your brain.
What does it do to your brain, the MSG in the fast foods?
It helps. It makes you lose your memory and begin to deteriorate the brain. It's very bad. And unfortunately, most Asian restaurants add monosodium glutamate because it makes you want more. Your taste buds like it, but your brain doesn't. And so I don't eat out unless I almost am forced to do so. I don't trust any restaurant, but especially a fast food restaurant, I won't go to.
Right. I go to I go to a lot of different Asian restaurants, and I always ask them, and they say, "Oh no, we don't." You know, you can ask them, and they're like, "We'll make you a fresh one, and we won't put that in." If they do put it, they won't put MSG into it. But many of them now will put it on their doors, like, we don't use MSG. So, but if you want to make sure, you can always ask them and just remind them. And if they do, then they will make one without it for you. So just FYI for those people out there who,
That's good to know. Thank you.
Yes, I did not
yeah,
know
just
that.
ask. Yeah.
That must
Yeah.
be recent.
Yeah. But you can ask them. I mean, and same thing with like oils, because a lot of, especially in Asian restaurants and other restaurants, they put a lot of oil for the cooking. You can, when you order the food, you can ask them, can you put less oil and more water when you're
Mm.
cooking it? So it doesn't stick to the pan. So they're like, oh, okay. So they'll just tell the cook, hey, this person wants less oil when you're cooking it. They don't want it as greasy. And that can kind of help mitigate that as well. But you know, let me that's the thing with processed foods. And you guys, it is a very interesting thing. All you have to, if you do are curious to see if the food is the food, just smash it up, get a magnet. Okay, because magnets, if there's magnetic debris or weird metals or anything in it, if it's not real food, organic food, you smash it all up, and then it'll come up to the surface with the magnet. It was, if you know, if it's any of those particles. And I have found some of those in the processed food, so I won't. I was tossing it. I won't use it. I'm not going to mention the names of anyone's, but it's actually a fun exercise. And then you just get a magnifier, and you magnify on top of the smashed food particles on processed food. See, it's very fascinating. The other thing also about food is, if you want to know if it's good for your body, like, just take butter, take the margarine and then the real butter and stick it outside. The bugs will eat the real food.
Mhm.
Yeah, the bugs will eat the if the bugs and the ants don't want to eat your processed food that you put outside, you shouldn't eat it too.
So
Have
you
you?
mean having like a cheeseburger that hasn't changed its shape or size
Yeah.
or taste after 10 years, you know, that's not real food, right?
Yeah. So whatever the animals eat, that's what you should be eating too, because they don't want to eat any kind of fake processed food. So that's another way to kind of see if what you're feeding your family is good for them to eat or not.
Mhm.
But anyways, aside from that, so that's the food advice. Is there any other kind of food advice that you have for people so they can kind of
Yes.
begin to incorporate this?
Okay, my turn. Let me take one here. Fluoride. Fluoride
Oh.
in terrible. Kills thyroid, kills pineal, it kills the entire endocrine, but also, well, lots of other things really. Kills the fertility. I mean, just actually we have it's a pet peeve of ours, fluoride. And if anybody who is on city water or that, you know, or basically even well water, I mean, it's just you got to be careful. We have a filter in the house, we have a filter in the clinic. Well, we want to keep our thyroids and pineals and all this stuff. I mean,
Why is
that's
fluoride not good for you? Because they put fluoride in a lot of products.
well, yeah.
Yep. I told my dentist if he puts fluoride in my mouth while I'm cleaning my teeth, I'll bite his hand off. I absolutely will not allow it in my body. Its biggest damage is to the pineal gland.
Mm.
17-year-olds are having calcified pineal glands if they drink city water. I mean, in a normal, healthy person, that doesn't happen until you're in your 60s or later.
Mm.
And the pineal is it's literally the third eye. I mean, it's
And
master hormone, master gland.
the sperm count in men has decreased from 150 million to 40 million. And when it gets to 20 million, men are infertile. And I've been working with men with low counts below 20 million since the early 90s. If we don't get rid of fluoride in this country, within 20 years, there'll be no more kids. None.
So everybody's going to be adopting?
Well, you can't adopt them because nobody will have them. I mean,
Yeah.
unless they happen to live on a farm and have well water that hasn't been contaminated.
Yeah. Okay. Very, very good. Very, very good advice. So how can people use holistic medicine to increase their immune systems?
Yes.
That we just spent an hour on our radio show yesterday talking about the immune system.
A couple of tips for people so they can take away from this.
Well, at the top of the list is you must take supplements today because the air is contaminated. 75% of the rain in this country, across the country, average 75% has Roundup in it. Roundup is actually in concentration is even more poison than fluoride. And so instead of needing 1 to 2.5 milligrams of B complex, you now need 25 milligrams of B complex to protect your brain.
So B12 is
B1, B2, B4, B6, B12
all
of
Bs.
course as well, and folic acid. But
Folic acid.
but the brain itself, I mean, early Alzheimer's, if you will, brain loss is very common if you don't take a good B complex, 25 milligrams.
Yeah.
And in vitamin C, well, it used to be 100 milligrams. Now you need 2,000 milligrams of vitamin C.
That's only one pill. You can get 2,000 milligram.
Exactly.
So let me ask you this, because so my husband, because I'm familiar with the less idyllic elements in our foods, in our water, in we're all being poisoned, aren't we?
It's an attack from everywhere.
Yeah, it's a challenge to it's a challenge to be a normal human being that's healthy, but we incarnate into this challenge for a reason, as you gentlemen have known. So let me ask you this, in terms of the supplements that you recommend to overcome or to address these deficiencies in food, water, air. So my family, my husband and I, we take much high percentages, dosages of vitamin A, B, C, D, E, zinc, folic.
Yes.
We zinc, folic. We don't really take iron because we have enough iron already. But if we feel like we're not having enough iron, then we'll take iron. But for the most part, we get that in our food. Folic acid, zinc. We take turmeric for inflammation.
I like turmeric, yes.
Yeah, it's delicious and by itself, anyways.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that's about it. What are we missing?
Magnesium.
Magnesium.
Magnesium
Okay.
is extremely poorly absorbed through the mouth. If there's any fat, protein, or calcium in the gut at the same time, the magnesium cannot get absorbed because it's absorbed in the distal colon. On the skin, magnesium lotion I discovered over 20 years ago. If you put it on the skin, it raises the intracellular level. In other words, magnesium is actually 90+% of it is not in the bloodstream, but inside the cells. And magnesium lotion, 2 teaspoons twice a day, will raise your intracellular level and raise your DHEA, the most important hormone in the body. It's your anti-stress hormone. So magnesium lotion very much on the top of the list.
Magnesium lotion. Okay, so I'm gonna have to buy some magnesium lotion off of your website. So magnesium lotion, and so anybody can go and you're saying the topical is the best way that the body absorbs the nutrients and not the vitamin pill version.
Right. Yes. I don't take any added magnesium by mouth.
Well, it's good for one thing. It's really good for one thing. If you have a constipation, you want to move the bowels. I mean, it's a pretty common problem. So in that case, magnesium by mouth is one of the best ways to move everything.
What about fiber? Fiber
is very important.
Yeah.
Fiber. Okay.
And water. Lots of water.
Yeah, my favorite is actually grapefruit pectin. There are other forms of fiber, of course, but if you're going to need to take it in order to give yourself that bulk, grapefruit pectin seems to me to work better than some of the others.
But let's come back, and I'm going to mirror back on what you got, because the same concept. So, for example, the combination of essentials, which is a B complex with the trace minerals. Two of those is usually enough for most individuals, but there are days that I want to optimize the brain power, go up to 100 milligrams of Bs, or people who have dementia or Alzheimer's, or they want to prevent further damage, they got to be on a really higher level. So that's essentials, and that's really wonderful multivitamin. And it's you have to have a B complex every time you have a vitamin C, because they're coupled together, and you can get
B and C, right?
Vitamin C. One of the best things that actually Dr. Shealy has put this together before we came together, and it's called Youth Formula, and which is a combination of vitamin C 2 grams, molybdenum, MSM, beta-1,3-glucan, and MSM, and vitamin C also raises DHEA, so that's another 60% natural DHEA ingredient. So that's that. Now we talked about vitamin D. Most people don't realize that it's got to be D3, not D2, which is the most common prescribed, which is nonsense. It's garbage, literally.
Waste of
Waste of money. Most people don't make use of it in your. But what the dosage is about 50,000 units of if it's I use 135 pounds, you say 140, somewhere there. But if you're over that weight, 130 to 140 pounds, then it's once a week. One little capsule. That battle's going to last you a couple of years. And the other thing is, if you're less than that, every 10 days. And if you get sick, what you can do is you can take 150,000 units, or 350,000 unit capsules, day 1, day 2, day 3, 9 total. And then what you get is basically just knocks out pretty much any viral, bacterial, or any kind of immune process that needs optimization.
Okay. Let me ask you. I'm going to give you a list of some symptoms that some of my friends and family and people I've spoken to are exhibiting, and if you can give some recommendations on what kind of supplements would help address that, or what kind of techniques would help address that. And many of them have autoimmune disorders and illnesses. So so brain fog, just feeling like not remembering stuff, or stuff that they've been doing all the time, just brain fog. What addresses brain fog?
Well,
What helps?
at the top of my list is get rid of antihypertensive drugs. The number one complication of antihypertensive drug. Did you know that 40% of Americans have high blood pressure? Taking up to 3 antihypertensive drugs, you've got only a 45% chance of controlling your hypertension. You have almost 100% chance of chronic fatigue, brain fog, and if you're a male, erectile dysfunction. We can control with a holistic approach, 99.9% of the time, the blood pressure totally under control. Get rid of the fog by following our advice on that. Get off, you have to be weaned carefully. It takes a physician who's got his head up right. But you must be on the B complex we talked about, the youth one we talked about, the D3, and then you begin to wean from the drugs. If you can't wean at that point, you add L-taurine, Taurine, up to 6,000 milligrams a day. I just had a lady I saw Monday, I think, and her blood pressure she was on 3 medications. Her blood pressure was like 180 over 100. And she took the taurine, and the first day after taking the taurine, her blood pressure was normal when she woke up.
Taurine, huh? Taurine and D3 for blood pressure and brain fog.
But also B complex and
B complex.
And magnesium.
And the magnesium lotion.
So the same list that I was saying earlier. This addresses brain fog and high blood pressure. Okay.
That's but also in addition to that, for the energy and for the brain fog and everything else, nitric oxide is really important. So something called Nitro Extreme, which is a derivative of the noni fruit. It comes from a company that we like and we trust, and I think it's on our website as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All these supplements are also on the website, and I know you offer online courses to learn this stuff as well. So this is what they can expect to learn.
Well, let me talk about the courses a little bit. So Dr. Shealy, I was, and I'll give you my perspective, and it's fascinating from my end. It's I find it fascinating. I walked into this universe where I I was just a sponge. I'm literally just wanted to absorb everything about the known healing world, just from every angle. And when I encountered Dr. Shealy, it's I figure out he's got it figured out. And so and it's a wonderful, wonderful thing. And again, the concept is in the holistic approach, you start with a lifestyle. Nothing happens until a person makes a decision to be healthy. And I tell people, if you're not going to be committing to a healthy mind, body, and spirit, changing your patterns, learning from previous mistakes, don't even bother working with us. I mean, I'm just that frank. In other words, I'm not interested in having clients here. I'm interested in success stories. That's how we have over 30,000 success stories, 85% success rate. But the 15% that failed, well, I'm not going to say that everything is 100% for everybody. But there's enough tools in the holistic field that can work. It's got it's usually people who are willing or not willing to do the work. So you got the lifestyle.
Well, that's why they have modern medicine. They have the traditional. I don't know if it's traditional, because this is traditional, but they have conventional medicine, and that they can go to and prescribe them, a bunch of medication up the wazoo for that if they just want to just mediate.
One of the things that I learned early on, I started out in emergency room medicine and family medicine, so I'm in double interest, and I really wanted to do family medicine because of the preventive aspect, because I kept hearing the word prevention. I like, I don't want problems in my people, my clients. But what I found out, that their concept of prevention is not prevention whatsoever. It's maybe annual testing, and to say, okay, now you got a problem, now you got more pills. And the 5-minute visits are not enough to get to the bottom of what makes a person a person.
5 minutes is just enough to go, okay, you have this problem, and this is the medication I'm going to prescribe for you.
Exactly, and that's all you have time for. And then you'll still be late for the next person because you still got to write that script. So that concept completely fails. I mean, it's good for maintenance of disease. The concept is, does a person choose wellness, or do they choose illness? If they choose illness, I say frankly, no judgment. I'm not here to say what is right, what is wrong. But if you're not willing to be proactive, if you're not willing to do the work, because we're here to assist, we're here to guide, we're here to provide tools. But these tools, for example, like this device sitting on a desk, it means it does absolutely nothing on a desk. It's got to be on my body to work, and same with everything else. It's the whole new approach and dimension, and it's how you see a person. Now, courses, because we are only two people, and because we're already running around like a chickens with a head cut off. I mean, if that's the expression. I mean,
well, there's a lot of people who've tried everything that they possibly can with conventional medications, conventional medicine at the hospitals, and yes, that's never going to go away. Surgeries are still going to happen. Illnesses are still going to be diagnosed. It's always going to be there. But for especially for a lot of people in Asia and a lot of people around the world, they are looking at holistic medicine, energy healing, alternative medicines, chiropractic, acupuncture, different things to add, to supplement, or to slowly replace, because what they have been going to is not working for some of their illnesses and ailments. And so they have, just like Dr. Sorin, you had the experience of being diagnosed and having 3 years. You're like, what do I have to lose? I've already tried everything at the hospital. What do I have to lose? And many people are feeling symptoms and illnesses that they've gotten to that point where they're like, I've done everything I possibly can. I have all these specialists, and what do I have to lose at this point? And
exactly. Yeah.
There are a couple of other things we haven't talked about in lifestyle that are critically important. And one of those is physical exercise. People who sit all day have the same death rate as someone who smokes 1 or 2 packs of cigarettes a day.
Really? Okay.
You must get some significant physical exercise, a minimum, and we're talking about not optimal, a minimum 30 minutes, 5 days a week. Now, for people who won't exercise, I have them stand and move the arms like this, starting with 1 or 2 or 3 minutes, and build up to 30 minutes, 5 days a week. That's at least keeping you alive. I mean, I only do 2 hours every day.
But the difficult thing about it is that if we could clone ourselves and be in every in various places, or just be able to reproduce and multiply our capacity. So that's where we've taken everything that we've done online. Dr. Shealy has been teaching ever since he started holistic concept, so since since 60s, I'm going to say, but 70s when it bloomed. And for me, I realized that, I had to be, I wrote several books during my colon cancer experience, because I didn't know if I was going to be alive. So I just wanted to lessons and spiritual experiences, my life story into that, and how it can help other people. So since then, it's evolved since. We really came upon the concept that there's some good things about this world that we live in, technology, online, and there's some not so good things about it. And we see, especially with the last year, we see a lot of not so good things, but let's not forget about some of the positives. Anytime there's a shadow, there's also a light. So
that's a life lesson.
It's an opportunity for us. So we took the opportunity, and we actually took all of these things. So now there's a pain management course with the holistic pain management that's available for people to learn about the modalities and to understand what's going on, how to work with things. There is a Life Beyond 100 course, in other words, optimizing life in a healthy pattern, and then working with telomeres, or the tail ends of DNA, so we can actually safely get, not a nursing home capacity, but a well-lived beyond 100. And Dr. Shealy is going for 125 to start. Now he's the first to get there. I still got a 40
He's
years.
88. He hasn't gotten to the hundreds yet. He hasn't gotten to his golden years.
No. And then there's other courses. There's Biogenics, which is self-regulation course. There's basically one of my favorites coming up is personal intuition. How do you tap into personal intuition so you know what's for you? So there's a lot, but there's about 5 or 6 other courses that are in the works. I mean, we just I wish we had more time.
Yeah, so a lot of the online courses that you offer on your website, I'm going to put the information so people can go there. You have workshops online where they can learn pain management, and they can learn lifestyle and supplement and all that. And then you basically go towards, once they address the ailments, you work them towards online courses that go into the spiritual element of how to live a higher frequency as a higher frequency individual and build a lifestyle that radiates at a higher frequency and consciousness.
Wow.
Real quick, let me also give you a couple other common symptoms and ask you what is the recommended supplement or technique to address it. So we went over brain fog. What about chronic fatigue, like just feeling so zapped, like no energy to walk up the stairs or to do the active stuff, just like the fatigue, the constant sleep and drainage of your body? How do you address that?
Well, of course, the greatest is the basic supplements that we talked about. And my favorite of the two, this device, it is just remarkable how much energy it gives you. Anywhere on the body, but it puts you into that who cares state of mind. That is so important to help you. Now, I do want to mention the average American eats only 2.2 servings of vegetables and fruits a day. You need 5 to 8, a minimum of 5. So I have a strong recommendation for those people who won't eat more fruits and vegetables. There is a product, a concentrated tart cherry juice called Nature Blessed. 2 tablespoons of that gives you the equivalent of 3.5 servings of fruits and vegetables. So
what is it again?
Nature Blessed, NATURE tart cherry juice concentrate.
Tart cherry juice. Juice. Okay.
And it's available only in the produce department of what I call real grocery stores. But it's so good. Okay, just adding that will at least get you to the basic minimum of fruits and vegetables. And it tastes good.
Okay.
The other part of this too, besides the lifestyle, obviously you've got to look at what else is going on. Is there an element of depression, anxiety? Because that's got to be dealt with. And this is also where a little bit of taurine, and also combination of tryptophan and lithium orotate. Now, those are the two things that actually stabilize the brain and help to create serotonin. That's the precursor to serotonin, and which is the feel-good type stuff. And of course, the first thing, and the general analogy in this kind of situation, because, conventional system, just think of it this way: there's a primary care doctor, gatekeeper. Let's just kind of paint a picture of what you get in the conventional system. And then from that gatekeeper, if the doctor can handle it on their own, great, they will do that. But if they can't, they're going to send you to a specialist for the heart, for the liver, for the kidneys, for the lungs. And interestingly enough, some of this, I'm not saying everybody, but some people are amazing. Some people are more open-minded, and I've seen some really great people. So don't let this be a negative statement. But in general, the idea is a heart doctor is only going to work with the heart. And even though the same blood vessels that lead to the heart that are compromised, compromised to the brain, if you ask about the brain, they're going to send you to a neurologist. They're not going to basically look at it from a systems
Well,
perspective.
holistic, yeah.
Exactly, and that's the difference. That's
right.
The difference.
Well, here's another.
Dysautonomia, dysregulation of nervous system can lead to a lot of things. So you got to go from the root level.
Right. So you just touched on the next common one that my friends and family asked me about to ask you as well. So you went through the brain fog, you went through the chronic fatigue. What about nervous system? But what about just kind of like if your body feels like it's being electrocuted, or if like the tendons and nerves are just feeling like inflamed, any kind of dis-ease in their nervous system.
Dis-ease, you said the right word.
Exactly.
The disease, what people say disease and don't even give it a second thought, is a combination of dis and ease. We're born in ease, and we get into the dis-ease. And it's just like a concept of, it took a while to get there. It took certain patterns, certain actions, certain behaviors, certain environmental, mental, emotional, to get into the dis-ease, and everything is holistic. From the brain down to the toes, everything is connected. In many ways. So come back from dis-ease back into ease, please.
Well, I do want to mention that depending upon the seriousness of the problem, we ever discussed treating these most serious problems with intravenous ozone and intravenous vitamin C.
Okay.
I've been doing the vitamin C since 1979. It's for chronic fatigue syndrome, for chronic Lyme syndrome. Lyme syndrome, if you don't treat it within the first month, you can take antibiotics for the rest of your life. It won't cure it.
So intravenous vitamin C, not just topical vitamin C.
Anywhere from 50 to 100 grams, depending upon your weight. And that has to be, there's something called Myers cocktail. There are other supplements you put into the vitamin C with it, but the basic is the vitamin C. And then, it's got some B complex and some magnesium.
So they can take that at home, or do they have to go to the hospital to get intravenous?
At the office.
The office, okay, to get intravenous vitamin C. Okay.
It's a holistic practice. If they aren't holistic, they won't do it. But it's what we use for cancer. It's what we use for all kinds of chronic disease.
Okay. So people who are experiencing neurological dis-ease in the body, like the severe inflammation they feel tendon, or they feel kind of like the nervous system, they just feel like it. What they say is they feel like they're being slightly electrocuted. The body's slightly electrocuted. That's the only way they can describe it. So they would have to go find a naturopathic or holistic medicine office, and then they can offer intravenous vitamin C into the system, and that could help alleviate that. Okay.
Exactly.
What about blood clots?
Well, actually, that is mostly the result of drugs and vaccines. It's rare in normal situations.
Okay.
In other words,
how can they address it? I mean, what kind of things can people do to address prevention of blood clots?
Well, they've got to avoid the medications that can increase that, and as I said, it's often related to, especially the current vaccine. But aspirin is fairly good, and there's something called nattokinase.
Nattokinase?
Yes, Nattokinase. And that also is excellent to help prevent clotting. The aspirin or the nattokinase are the best natural product.
Is natural Kane something that they can buy over the counter? Is it like a supplement?
Health restore, yes.
Natural Kanes and aspirin is something that they should take for these people who suffer blood clots or want to prevent the high potential of blood clots. That's what they should take on a daily basis as part of their routine.
Exactly.
Yeah. Now, obviously, clinical has to come into the picture, and and there's still. So here's the thing: the conventional medicine still has a lot of value, but you have to realize what it's valuable for and what it's not. Diagnosis, absolutely fantastic. In other words, the tools, the imaging, the blood work, we use all the time. So in that respect, we are classic conventional allopathic process, basically. Want to find out what's going on. If I need a ultrasound, if I need a biopsy, if I need, again, to find out is okay, but the treatment, once you get to the treatment part, that's where the holistic shines, because that's where you're looking at all the conventional modalities. Holistic means everything. It means availability of the surgery and drugs, which is primarily what we're working with. It's almost like a psychiatric field. There's also psychiatric modalities, which I'm not even going to go into the drugs there because that's terrible. But it's a question of normalizing and optimizing. Please, yeah.
What about gum bleeding? Bleeding gums when you're brushing your teeth or you have a hard time eating. What about that? Is there anything for that?
Vitamin C is very.
Vitamin C.
The other thing I like to do, instead of flossing, Stimudents. It's a balsam wood toothpick called Stimudents. Doing this at least once a day between all the teeth is excellent for strengthening the gums.
Stimudents? Stimudents?
Yes.
Okay. My teeth is going to be getting a spa day pretty soon. I see it happening.
Why not? Yeah.
Stimudent. Do you hear that? For people who have gum bleeding or issues. What about
vitamin
go ahead.
C.
And vitamin C. Okay, vitamin C is happens to be the winner a lot of this. What about vision problems, vision and hearing? Sinus, vision, hearing.
That's immune system to a large degree.
That's immune system.
Yeah, the immune system we talked briefly. So is either the good B complex essentials, or an equivalent a youth formula or vitamin C, and with that, and you could add MSM, but you could just take the youth formula and just get the benefit of DHEA, vitamin D3, astaxanthin, which is
our favorite vitamin A, astaxanthin.
Yeah.
The 20 milligrams, but again, for vitamin A is just great. And then of course there's two other things that I would add to that. If the immune system needs more help, more assistance, vitamin K.
K.
Yeah. Now, if somebody is on coumadin or any kind of blood thinner, vitamin K will go against that medicine. So we have to advise people on that.
Okay.
Reverse the coagulation, which is what I do in the emergency room. I still work emergency room, by the way, from time to time, not as much as before, but this is my passion. It's my life.
Right.
But I love the skill. I love that. I love to see what's out there.
Yeah.
The other things that we haven't talked about is extra beta-1,3-glucan. Beta-1,3-glucan is found in the youth formula, but extra anywhere from 500 to 1,000 milligrams of that will actually boost the immune system remarkably.
And also, there are two other major eye problems. One is problems with the retina, but the other is cataracts. If you start early using United States Pharmacopoeia castor oil, one drop.
Castor oil.
Castor oil. One drop each night or each morning, doesn't matter, once a day. We have seen it, I've reversed it in scores of people, as well as in one goat and two dogs that I know about. But you can reverse cataracts if you start early with castor oil. Okay,
so do you guys hear that? So if you are starting to experience fuzziness in your vision, in your eyes, or then castor oil, and that's totally healthy. You can buy it over the counter at the grocery store. Yes. Okay. What about the hearing? What about the hearing? Feeling kind of like losing hearing.
Now, then, if you're beginning to have trouble with that, most of the time they have ringing in the ears.
Yeah,
Fuzzy.
yeah.
They're fire and air bliss. These are transcutaneous acupunctures. You don't need needles.
Acupuncture. Okay.
Well, but actually, it's mixtures of essential oils that stimulate
it?
points.
Okay. So it's a topical that you rub on the.
Right.
And what is it called again?
Air bliss and
Air
fire
bliss.
bliss. Using
And
those
fire
daily
bliss.
will often reverse tinnitus.
Yeah.
Actually, the beautiful thing is it's a tiny little bottle about the size of your finger. I mean, just but it lasts about a month when you use it, and it's just and the combination of the oils is also very interesting. By the way, speaking of combination of bliss oils with fire, earth, and crystal, those three, which reduction of free radicals, assistance with calcitonin, which is the bones and the calcium metabolism, and let's see, what am I missing? Oh,
well, it raises it
and the fire bliss, which
regrows your telomeres 3.5% a year.
What is it?
Fire, earth, and crystal bliss applied daily.
Oh, it's topical. Okay.
Over a year will make your telomeres regrow. In healthy people, your telomeres shrink 1% every year of life. Using these three, they grow back 3.5% a year, which is 4.5% better than normal.
Right. Very, very good. So you guys, I hope you guys are paying attention, because this is some very good advice from Dr. Sorin and Dr. Shealy about essential oils, vitamins, and various ways to cheaply and easily go to the store and get these things to kind of help address some of these symptoms that you may be experiencing right now if you're listening to this. Let me ask you this. What about inflamed reactions, like, inflammation or on your arm, on your legs, inflamed skin reactions? I don't know how to describe that. What can address that?
A couple of things. I personally, little story. So I did something kind of stupid. I was going way faster than I should have, and I crashed the vehicle about in mid-March. Ended up with a ruptured lumbar third fracture. So unstable. I mean, I had to have surgery. Now I have rods there. But this baby here, for example, the PEMF, right behind the back, 24/7, literally.
Behind your back?
Right.
You can put it anywhere.
Right.
Yeah.
But
okay. So the energy would just run through.
The injury, it literally is a cellular recharger. And within 3 weeks, among other things that I did, I also did, and this is, thank you for your advice, exosomes and regenerative medicine. I mean, I did everything. I went to physical therapy, but musculoskeletal, bone and joint, remarkable improvement in how fast things can recover, and inflammation. But I'm also going to go back and I'm going to say that you cannot address this question in a holistic manner without mentioning about the incoming toxicity with the food, with the thoughts. With
that was my next question.
With the stress, these are, it's good to get into the more advanced things, but you've got to have the foundation of basic stress management, lifestyle, and as well, because I give an example, the body is just, as an analogy, I like nice cars. I I can go without, but it's okay. If you equate the body to an incredible vehicle, incredible machine, and you keep pumping crap into that machine, at some point that machine is going to stop functioning, even though it's going to last a while. A little, depends. So
let me ask you this about the stuff that we pump into our machine, our body. So, okay, let's say somebody wants to just detox the body of parasites. How can you detox the body of parasites?
Wormwood compound, WORMW, wormwood, WOOD, wormwood compound. That's a wonderful combination of herbs that is excellent for that.
And they can buy that at any store, any supplement store?
Or on the internet.
On the internet. Yeah. And is that something that they just eat or drink, or is that a pill, or is that a liquid?
Capsules.
It's capsules.
No,
and so that would detox the body?
Well, that will get rid of the parasites. But my favorite detox of the body is castor oil again.
Castor oil
on the skin.
on the skin. Okay.
Actually, you can, after you take a bath, rub castor oil from the bottom of your neck down to your wrists, front and back, all the way down to your ankles, front and back. Put on a sweatsuit and sleep in it. Do that for 5 days. That is the greatest detox in the world.
Mm-hmm. That works with the lymphatic system and everything else, and plus has so many other benefits. It's just
So everybody's going to be castor oiling, bathing themselves after the, or like creaming themselves with castor oil after, just to detox every day from any. So like if they suspect that they were having some kind of parasite in their body, or like a little circle, ringworm, or whatever, if they suspect any kind of toxicity in the body, they're going to be rubbing castor oil lotion on the body after they get out of the shower. So like do it at night so that you don't have to feel that greasiness all day.
Yeah, I just sleep in it.
Perfect.
Do that 5 nights in a row, and then once a week.
Once a week. Okay.
After 5 nights.
After 5 nights. Okay. I'm gonna ask you one more thing, and everybody go to their website for their courses because they go into detail about this stuff. We're just giving you some common things that I'm seeing and the people are asking me to ask you. What about spike fevers?
Spike fevers.
Yeah, spike fevers. Like I have somebody who wanted me to ask you because she gets spike fevers at certain times.
So it comes up, comes down, and just on and off.
Yeah, I think it has to do with the immune system, but spike fevers.
And when you have a fever is a wonderful thing in the body. From a holistic, from a conventional approach, you see a fever, you fight the fever, but you fight everything. But that's a trouble. If you fight everything, including yourself, there's no winning in there. So the concept and the idea is stop fighting and get back into alignment.
But my suspicion is they need intravenous vitamin C. That's almost
back to intravenous vitamin C.
I love the combination of ozone and vitamin C. It's just one of the best cleanups. It gets rid of any bugs. Now, why do people get fever? Number one, it's either some kind of infection or inflammation or some kind of a response in the body where the immune system is just going absolutely haywire for whatever reason. Maybe a good reason. It may not be a proper reason. It may be autoimmune. But the trouble and the trouble there is to literally. That's why we spend up to an hour or more with each person. And the first thing is to make sure there's no red flags, because we're still.
What are red flags? Like, so how can people live a healthy holistic lifestyle so they can prevent inflammation of the heart, for example, or lung issues that breathing issues that could come up? I mean, what kind of lifestyle can they do to prevent these possible things?
Okay, that's really important. At the top of the list is a normal body mass index. 72% of people are overweight, and 36% of people are truly obese. That is now the number one cause of what's called premature death. Number 2 is no smoking. 22% of adults still smoke. Number 3 is eating a minimum of 5 and up to 8 or 10 servings of fruits and vegetables a day. Next is 30 minutes of physical exercise 5 days a week minimum. And finally, sleeping 7 or 8 hours every night.
And I'm going to add one more thing too. It's stress management, because stress and the immune system are intimately connected. Actually, stress in the 1930s and 40s, Dr. Serjey, and this is foundation for your work in Biogenics, the PhD project thesis. Has shown that demonstrated that stress, unopposed stress, and cortisol and all the other pro-inflammatory and just sympathetic activation, in other words, fight or flight, out of control, is behind a lot of what's going on. So the key is to calm the system from the lifestyle factors, from the foundational factors, and also some supplements and a few things. For example, garlic is wonderful, and if you like garlic, you can eat it just as is. That's what I do. I mean, it's not the greatest breath, when afterwards, but hey, but there's also other things like turmeric, curcumin. I mean, just there's various.
Turmeric's delicious.
Oh, absolutely. But also making sure that the bathtub is so to speak clean. That you keep putting in the clean stuff in, and if some we talked about red flags. From allopathic standpoint, when I see a client, my first head that I have to clear, so to speak, is the emergency room head. Or in other words, I speak with somebody and I want to make sure they don't have an appendix going on, if they have a belly pain. I want to make sure that if they have a headache, that it's not something that's spiked up or something that is, related to a stroke or a bleed. So there's that aspect of the medical system. But once you clear that, once you know there's no medical emergency, or once you've dealt with a medical emergency, and by the time people get to us, they've been through the system. And it's a question of literally aligning everything.
Real quick, one last symptom that the ladies wanted me to ask you to is what about unusual periods, like really, really heavy blood clotting on the periods and so forth. That kind of, what can women do to who experience that? How can they alleviate that?
There is an acupuncture treatment called Chungmo, Chongmo. And the Chungmo can either start a period or stop a period.
Chungmo, okay.
Chungmo, yes. And so that's the place where they do need the good B complex, and they need zinc, 20 to 30 milligrams a day. But a Chungmo acupuncturist can really put that in order.
One other thing I would highly add to this, and this is good for basically most people, and especially the postmenopausal, perimenopausal, or even for men who are getting towards the elder stages, not older, the eugesterone or progesterone cream. And that progesterone is
progesterone cream.
Yeah, progesterone is one of those hormones that gets converted into testosterone. It can be converted into estrogens. It can be converted to DHEA. Dr. Shealy demonstrated that progesterone or eugesterone cream raises DHEA, which is the quintessential health and wellness hormone. That was a wonderful research project, by the way. Thank you for doing that.
Yeah.
But, if there's any question or doubt. So a progesterone cream, eugesterone cream, one pump application, and if a person is still having menstrual periods, then you hold it for the duration during the period, but just during the other times.
Okay.
And then
so
if you're menopausal, then you ride along.
Right. So let's just quickly touch on the biogenetics and the Samvit sound technology that you guys offer on your website. So what does that address?
That is a major, autogenic training is the foundation for calming the brain, training the body and the mind to work in harmony with you. My favorite quote of all time may be, every thought is a prayer. Thinking sets in motion spiritual forces to bring about change in body, mind, companions, hope, despair. So that's the foundation, is autogenic training, and these other 67 other exercises people can train themselves with.
So think of it in terms of, and this is the beauty. When I came in, it was literally a merging of concepts. I started out with the concept of Samvit wellness. A little background information. Samvit is a Sanskrit word, which stands for wisdom, insight, and that was something that Brian Daly and myself came up with before I even joined Dr. Shealy. The idea was basically to get to the brainwaves, frequencies, for example, delta for deep sleep, theta, alpha, beta, and then gamma. Gamma is the frequency that we've been playing with a lot more, since we have optimized the brain, and we said, okay, let's play with gamma. But there's an interaction between them. For example, theta is required in order to get to gamma. So it's not as simple as that. It's a very complicated, beautiful, amazing process of neuroplasticity working with the brain. So I started out with that technology, and I've been working with the sound engineers to create that specific technology for specific exercises. When I joined Dr. Shealy, and I learned that he has this amazing program, and if you don't mind, I'll just take us back to the roots. When I came in, we still had tapes. Do you remember what tapes were like? People don't even know what the tapes are. So we had to literally take it to modernize. And that was I kind of take little credits for for taking us from the tape level to kind of like to
CDs
to CDs to now
MP3s.
downloads and MP3s. But you know, but the concept is we were sitting on this gold mine of absolutely beautiful, amazing stuff, multiple exercises, and we actually re-recorded a bunch of them, you know, adjusted the length, adjusted the process so that it's applicable to today's world. But the idea is these frequencies are coming in with the recording, so you've got the benefit of the amazing, beautiful retraining self-regulation system of Biogenics that works in itself. I mean, there's research behind that. It's a PhD project. It's a
Right.
wonderful, and now
Sound technology.
in the
You
brain.
know what sound technology is? It's energy healing.
Exactly.
Yes.
Okay.
Exactly. Yeah.
The Buddhists will just say it's energy healing, and that energy of healing is in the gamma and above frequency, which they have found in meditation research. And there's higher ones that just haven't been able to measure yet beyond gamma. But when you reach gamma, you basically get into a state of consciousness whereby you no longer have your own identity, and you become what in Buddhism say, connect to Christ consciousness, the crystalline Christ light of source, of God, of whatever you want to call it, that spirit in all people and all things within creation. And when you tap into that frequency, you tap into that source of Christ consciousness. And that consciousness is what creates the healing, the wave particle healing in the person. And that then the DNA codes of healing, of better wellness and health is shine in that light to the recipient. So in short, it's energy healing.
Yes. Yes.
Perfect.
Yes.
Okay. So back to Christ consciousness we go. We went
Light and love.
light and love. So we went from traditional medicine to holistic medicine to spirit medicine back to Christ consciousness and connecting to source within each other. So let's look at this beautiful PEMF therapy that you guys have that connects to that gamma brainwave frequency of healing that connects to Christ consciousness of source. So so that one, can you show it for people? So if they wanted to buy it for everyday use.
Yeah, and
Okay.
we have baseball caps also. If you don't own a baseball cap, we have a red one you can put under this because it's a little more comfortable on your head.
Yeah. Okay. So you have put it on your back for back pain. You can put it anywhere you want. You can put it on your head.
Right.
It will basically just address. And you said that it quickly within 30 minutes connects to that high, what we know so far, gamma brainwave frequency to connect to that Christ consciousness. What Buddha says, the Christ consciousness field with source to get that healing from that higher dimension and above. And so what does it do to the cells of the body? I mean, what can people expect when they try it on themselves?
A healthy body at rest, all the cells have a minus 70 millivolt charge on them. When it's not working right, it might be minus 50 even, and then the cells are like that.
Yeah.
Stress, depression. I mean,
if it gets to minus 90, of course, they're dead almost. They don't work at all.
Okay.
This reestablishes every cell in your body at minus 70 millivolt charge.
Well, it also detox the body of parasites or anything that's not supposed to be there.
Not for parasites. That I would not recommend.
It will apply cellular function, but I think if you want to detox, I mean, I think you would have to add something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So, but like for somebody who's completely healthy like me, who want to do it just for fun, just because I like that field. Yes. I like that field. Okay, I just like that 500 and above field all the time.
Wonderful. Yeah.
It's not gonna hurt you.
No.
You're not gonna. You can never really get too much Christ consciousness light in your body.
If you have a pacemaker, you can't use it because pacemakers are very sensitive.
Okay.
And I would not use it in someone who's pregnant, just because I don't take any chances when someone's pregnant. But those are the only two exceptions.
Okay, so pregnancy, yeah, and in pregnancy, I remember when I was pregnant twice. You can't take certain, like I think Advil or Tylenol or something, and you can't have too much mercury, too much fish. So I wouldn't consider putting anything in your body.
Yeah, nothing interesting or
yeah. While you're pregnant, like Nothing. If you can't even eat seafood at a certain point, you shouldn't be putting anything in your body while you're pregnant. Period. The medical science has never changed on that. So regardless of what is being propagandized. So you can so for people who want to buy this, you can do it. And do you guys have lease, like with people, or you just can they lease it, or
there
payments?
If with a consultation, we can also arrange for a rent to buy on that. It's about $200 per month until you own it.
And what is the full price for selling that equipment?
$1,600.
$1,600.
Yeah.
Okay, $1,600, and then they can get it. And I think I have a birthday present coming up pretty soon. $1,600.
Yeah.
I'm gonna stick it on now. I'm gonna stick it on my head when I go to sleep. Is it gonna help me lucid dream so I can have more fun dreams?
Yeah, you can put it under your pillow even.
Yeah.
It'll go through the pillow.
And then, by the way, there's actually a third mode, which is a sleep mode in Delta, which is 0 to 3 cycles or frequency, per second, and that actually literally puts you to sleep.
Yeah, that's really good. That's really good. Yeah. All right. Well, I see. It's on top of my Christmas and birthday present list. So, but yeah, for everybody else, go to that website. So, really quick, what's a last message that? And this is Buddhism in the fifth dimension. The fifth dimension is basically Christ consciousness, light, and above to everything, to source and beyond. And so, I love it. We get back to Christ consciousness through holistic medicine. So what is your last message for builders of the fifth dimension, of this Christ consciousness healing light that we're all going to be experiencing all the time?
Yes.
Keep the faith. Put yourself in touch with your own higher self, your own soul, and God, and the Christ consciousness. That's what it's all about.
And the bottom line is, everything is energy. Every healing is energy. Even scalpel, that's energy too, in a way. Yeah. But love, hope, greatest healer in the universe. I mean, love is free. That's what I do. When people come to see us, when we do talks, presentations, love is free. It's meant to be free. It's that's where healing is.
In love is the desire to do good to others.
I love it. Well, Dr. Norman Shealy and Dr. Sergey Sorin, thank you for offering your lifetime work in an organic approach to living the highest frequency here on Spaceship Earth. So for more information about the Shealy-Sorin Wellness Institute's books, offerings, and of course, check out their courses, please visit their website, which is realholisticdoc.com, where you can get all the information and even more from what we discussed. And thank you kindly to our listeners for listening to another enlightening conversation. Until next time, blessings.
Thank you. Have a good one.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of Merkaba Chakras, where we talk Buddhism in the fifth dimension. For more information about today's guest, please go to the show description. For more information about Vaughn's metaphysical work, please go to merkabachakras.com. The views expressed today are for entertainment purposes and do not necessarily reflect the views of the host or replace any medical or legal advice. Don't forget to subscribe for more interviews about the fifth dimension. Until we meet again, blessings.